Hello and welcome to Second Act Reinvention, a Sochcast original with me, Archana Dutta. This is a podcast about women who have discovered their potential, pivoted in their careers, or found a new way to express themselves professionally at what is traditionally thought as a later stage in their life. I truly believe that there is no set timeline to your trajectory, and through this series and the amazing women I interview, I will prove to you that your second act, your reinvention, is still possible. Even if the societal standards, it is quote unquote too late. For my first guest on Second Act Reinvention, I am so pleased to introduce Dr. Shalini Mullick. A very, very warm welcome today because we are starting an excellent series of Second Act Reinvention with women in the second part of their life. This is a series specially done for Sochcast, and I cannot tell you how excited I am, Archana Dutta, your host, because Second Act is what I eat, breathe, and just feel all the time. Nothing better when you have women of substance who are right here, right next to me. So welcome Shalini, Dr. Shalini Mullick. You are a tapestry of many identities, and of course, we know so much about you that it's an incredible way of welcoming you on the first one in the Sochcast series.
Thank you so much, Archana. Thank you for the warm welcome and that lovely introduction. Absolute pleasure to be here, and absolute pleasure to be here on the Sochcast for the second act. It resonates very strongly, and I hope I know we'll have a lovely conversation ahead.
Yes, looking forward to that. To everybody who's here, I want to introduce Dr. Shalini Mullick. Professionally, as the head of pathology department at the National Institute of Tuberculosis and Respiratory Diseases in Delhi, you are constantly trying to expand your scope of work as a professional in the highly demanding field of medicine. But somehow you have also managed to take the time to reinvent yourself as a writer, and that is what we are curious about today. And that's where the reinvention comes, of course, with your first book, Stars from the Borderless Sea. What a fantastic name as well.
Thank you.
And you have long listed for the Earther Awards 2023. And now, of course, the first pertinent question: how did you reinvent as a writer?
So that is really a very pertinent question, because for me, it was reinvention of the first order. I had never imagined that I would reinvent myself, and that too as a writer. I had a very conventional career in terms of medicine, of course, demanding as you put it, but run of the mill, with nothing very creative. There is no scope for creativity there. So I think that is exactly what prompted this reinvention, because I think that all of us are a composite of many things, and some of us are doing some work which is very demanding, which is very it needs a lot of studying, it needs a lot of input, but it may not be very demanding creatively. So I felt a need within myself to feel connected to myself.
Very nice.
And that is where the creative path comes in. And I began writing. Again, I did not have, so it's very contrary to the usual career where you're going to give exams and then take jobs and get promotions. So I did not have a roadmap for this. I started writing because it made me happy. I mean, that is the sole one single reason that I started writing. It brought me joy, and I think it wasn't just the writing, it was the connection that I felt with myself when I was writing. It was the fact that I could be really myself, and whatever I wanted and I alone wanted would come out on paper. There was no external force deciding that I have to get up and see a patient at 10 in the morning or send a report by 3 in the afternoon. So this was all me. And I started writing little pieces. I started sharing them, and I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed what it brought to me. And somehow I expanded and I began to write a book because I felt that I had these stories to tell. And the stories were stories that I was looking to read as a reader. And I was not finding stories which have people or women protagonists who are mature. I found stories everywhere where women are in their 20s and struggling, and then they just get everything and life is settled. But that's not how it works. I was old enough to. So I wanted to write about these kind of situations, and I took it up more seriously.
Perfect. So thanks for bringing that up. But it really, coaxes me to ask you. On one hand, you are a hardcore logical person, a practical person being a doctor. On the other hand, you need to be really creative, isn't it? To start writing I think writing needs a lot of expression. For expression, you really need to tap into yourself. And while you're studying all your life, where is that? I mean, how is that transition happening?
Yes, that is a conundrum. But as I said, I think all of us have both the parts in us. Even for someone who's not a doctor, even suppose a homemaker. A homemaker is running her day on a lot of logic and a lot of logistics and things,
True.
right?
That's true.
So she's not getting the scope to be really creative. I mean, her routine is going to go for a 6 if she. So I think we have to tap into both these parts of ourselves. And I think that these are not antagonistic, these are complementary to each other, because anything we do, anything creative needs us, as you said rightly, to be in touch with ourselves, to tap much deeper. So it enriches us. And when something enriches us, it could be cooking, it could be singing, it could be just redoing your living room. But when something enriches us, it infuses us with more energy for even the practical part of it. It prevents us from being burnt out, because after all, at the end of the day, this is not really a transition for me. I'm still a doctor and I enjoy my work a lot. So it's not like I want to give up that part of myself. I feel and I really believe that writing is now helping me to be a better doctor. And also,
wow.
I mean, we will perhaps talk about that. Also, my experiences as a doctor did inform my writing. So it is complementary. When we grow in one domain, we will grow in the other domain.
That's a great insight, because I think that is something that we normally forget.
Yes.
That how we can complement a creative and a practical side together.
Yeah.
So you blended that beautifully. But I'm very intrigued to ask you, how did you come up with this name of your book, and what's behind that?
Okay, so my book is actually about romance. It's hardcore romance. But it's also very empowering romance, and we'll talk about that. So the title has its resonance there. Stars from the borderless sea. Love is infinite.
Yes.
Right? I mean, love is universal, love is infinite, and love is very, very unique. Now, the stars, we can't count them. The sea is an infinite thing without any borders. So that is the corollary with love. And we can't bind love. We cannot have boundaries in the sky or on the sea.
Wow.
On the land, we still do to some extent, of course, man-made. So that is what the corollary was. It is a symbolic thing for the infiniteness of true love.
Wow.
Which true love at any age, as in this book, it comes across through mature protagonists who are actually somewhere in their 50s. So true love is always empowering, it is always enriching, and it will remain infinite. So, that's
So
where the term-
tell us a little bit about what you're talking about, having a female protagonist, somebody who's in her 50s. I think that's when we start to question ourselves, our identity, what we like. We were just talking about it beforehand. Like the things that we really try to tap into much deeper, because we have passed our first act of our life as duties of in various forms, and to be perfect in every situation, because the society puts us in that spirit of like, yes, you can do it, you're the best mother and the best wife. And then we say suddenly, by the way, who am I? Right? So yeah, so how did you really think of this character? What is in this book? In short, if you can sum it up, that'll be great.
So this book, the protagonists here, like all of us, are the sum of our choices. And like you said, that at a particular age, we suddenly begin to question, I did this, but was it really me? Was it what I really believe in, or was it what I've been conditioned to do? And when we question, and the protagonists in this book are three very strong women who've lived life completely on their terms. They have broken the conventional mold of they're not stereotypical, they are strong career women. They have had the guts and the courage to see the relationships which are not working for them, which are not serving them well, which are not nurturing them, and they've found the courage to move on.
Wow.
So, for me, writing about these people was very, very important, because taking a decision or making a choice is one thing, but also owning our choices is the other. When you make a choice, like the people in my book do, with no fear of judgment, there is, something, we are doing something. Are we right? Are we wrong? We're just taking what we feel is right at this particular moment, and we have to stand by our conviction. Any decision can go any which way, but we should know that we took the decision because we were comfortable with it. So that is what the protagonists in my stories have done. They have built their lives slowly, surely, strongly. And that kind of building happens, with time. So that is why they are looking back on their life 5 decades, or in the case of one of them, 6 decades of difficult choices. But they realize that now the way they are living is truly enriching for them. And those choices can take some time to, show us their results. But if we have been doing them with conviction and following our own heart and staying the course, we will be able to lead the lives that we want to and we deserve to.
But don't you think that when we start to do that, when we start to understand ourselves and to create that voice, there is a lot of hustle bustle which starts around us, and people start talking about, oh wow, she has become like this now. I have never seen her, in this avatar, and what happened suddenly? Did you face anything like that when you wrote a book, or you, doctors are doctors after all? I'm sure that a household sees you in a certain way and says, oh my goodness, I don't know what happened now, that she is now reinventing herself as a writer.
Yes, I think all of us face that. I did too. The biggest question that you get is, Q. Why are you writing?
Yeah.
And somehow the answer that it makes me happy is not enough. But then you also realize that what people around you think of what you're doing is not important anymore. So that happened because especially if I work full time, so if I'm taking out time, that time will come out of some place, right? I will either miss out on a family gathering or something. I mean,
and that's important.
It's important. More than it being important, I've always done it. So now the question is, why aren't you doing this and why are you doing that? And when you answer that this is making you happy, the rest of the world has a very critical kind of an eye on you that, oh, this is very self-serving. And self-serving women are not generally taken across as good or ideal.
So true.
So that happens. It happened. But then, like the protagonist of my book, I think following your heart is important. And that's what I did. You have to also at some point stop justifying your actions. You don't have to keep giving explanations.
This is a good takeaway.
Yeah, it takes time to get there because I think we're so conditioned. If you just look at it, even I attend medical conventions and conferences. So the default setting is that you will look for a conference when none of the children have exams, right?
Of course.
When there's no other family commitment happening. And still when you come back, you will buy something even if it's at the airport. And, because you're not supposed to leave them and go. You're not supposed to serve your own academic pursuits also at the cost of your children. Even if for the other 363 days you are the best mother around. So that's how we are conditioned. We are conditioned to give explanations even to people we've given birth to. So I'm sorry I had to go when you had a test. We don't need to be sorry.
Yeah.
It takes some years before we get there.
I worked with Lufthansa for 20 years, and in 20 years, I must have visited Germany, let's say as an assumption, 500 times. And in 500 times, I did not step out of the office. I used to take the next flight out, even if it meant to go via a point. It wasn't a direct flight. Anywhere in Germany, if there was a point, even at 11 in the night, there was a flight, I would either drive, take a bus, take a flight to get connected and take the next flight back home. I have not seen anything without my children being there. I was always a guilty mother. And I think that's the life that we lead, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're conditioned. We're conditioned to feel guilty. And this saying this might sound a little odd, but if we don't feel guilty, we feel guilty about not feeling guilty. It's an infinite loop of guilt that we set up for ourselves. So coming out of that takes time, and I think coming out of that is integral to the second act. Our first act, it's okay, we live and learn, right? Let's not beat ourselves up over that.
So true.
But our second act is that when we are happier, we are nurtured, we are better people. And I think that's good enough reason to do whatever we want to do.
So true. So for women who are listening us today, Dr. Shalini Mullick's life is showing us many kinds of decisions and choices she has made to be the person she is. Transitioning from a doctor, I'm not saying that she's left that, but also experimenting into the space of expression and creative writing. I think it speaks volumes. It doesn't happen with everybody, and this Sochcast special episode is dedicated to those women who've always thought that they probably can't do it because of some reason. Take that first step, and you never know what opens up for you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Great. So tell me something. Creativity is something that sometimes we feel, I don't have it in me. What is your take on creativity? From your life experience, what is creativity? And what would you like women to know about creativity?
So I don't think that, you need to define creativity in a particular way. For you, creativity is all the enriching work that you do, these kind of sessions, right? For me, it's writing. For someone else, it would be painting all the beautiful things which are on the walls. I can't paint to save my life. So it doesn't matter. But creativity is about being in touch with yourself. And what comes out then is the product of your creativity. You don't have to subscribe to this idea that only writing a poem or only painting or sculpting is creativity. Cooking can be creative. Yeah. You might enjoy a particular sport.
Absolutely.
Whatever is making you feel grounded, whatever is making you feel in touch with yourself as a human being, where you feel that and you do something and it enthuses you. I think that is your own creativity, and there is no, there's no marker that this is more creative, this is less creative. I think you should just start by, trying and figuring out what time of the day are you the happiest. Even if it's just listening to music, you don't have to go and compose music.
Yes.
It's okay. So that kind of thing, what grounds you, what makes you feel better when you've had a bad day, when you've had a rushed day, and you just feel calm. I think that will give you the direction to your own creativity. For example, I was never one of those people who say that right from 12th standard I wanted to be a writer. I was a reader, yes, a lot of us read books, right? But I have not had any formal training. I tried this. I tried photography also before this, and it was just something that didn't work for me, right? So I tried this, I liked it. So just this process of trying will help you get to know yourself better. And I think that's the first step, right?
Great. So this makes me also think that, to write a book, and especially fiction, right, you have to really get into the character. Yeah. You have to empathize with the character, you have to feel the character, you have to know what the character is feeling. Did it start with your feeling a character in some way as a woman? What all kind of traits came out?
It does, definitely. You have to know your character very well. And that can only happen if you're, sensitive to things and people around you, especially in writing fiction. So I think that everyone has layers, and all of us are beyond what we are at this moment. I mean, we're sitting here, we're having this lovely conversation, we're having people listen to us. But what we were doing 2 hours before this has influenced our moods, has influenced our day.
Absolutely.
So, being sensitive to all that, how a character is going to react to those kind of things, you build it up. As you write, you become more and more aware. And that's what I meant when I said when you're connected to yourself, you will be also more aware of your surroundings. So, definitely, you have to get in the skin of your character. Having said that, you don't have to be your character, because you do write a lot of grey characters, you do write a lot of, characters. Everyone can't be like us. So, you take away different things from different people and their experiences. They add up when we create our characters, and the characters, like all people, will have the good and the bad coming together, and the layers. So, that's very important when you're characterizing anyone in a book, in fiction.
Right. So did reading help you? Did you read a lot or?
Phenomenally.
Yeah.
I still read a lot, and I read everything, fiction, non-fiction, everything. I mean, just name it and I read it. So that helps a lot, because that helps you get into other characters' heads, right? Yeah. So that helped me. I have always been a very, very active reader. I still am. It also helps you learn the craft of writing, because I'm not formally trained, but you do need to write, right? I mean, you cannot just submit a paragraph which you've written abstractly.
Right.
So it helps you learn the craft of writing also. Of course, there are other ways to learn, and you must always, develop a skill.
Right.
But reading definitely helps.
Since you've been reading so much, and you're saying you all kinds of reading, and then you came to fiction, writing fiction. So, what is a genre that you really love to pick first? And did that influence you in writing? Are you a hardcore fan of fiction then?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. So, first of all, while my book, the debut book, is fiction all along, I have written actually very hard-hitting feminist pieces of non-fiction all along. So I write about whatever touches me. I am an incurable romantic at heart. The Yash Chopra movies and all that. Totally, you can 100 times I can watch them. So that touches me, hence I write. But also what touches me is gender issues, issues about diversity, issues about inclusivity, issues about gender representation. So I've written a lot of those pieces as well. So this is about writing. So I don't have a fixed genre. For the simple reason that if 5 years ago you would ask me, where do you see yourself? I would never have been able to say that I'm a writer. I would be a writer. So I don't know what genre I'll pick next, although I don't see myself picking murder mysteries and stuff, but I do like reading them. So never say never. When it comes to reading, yes, I love fiction. Whenever I am feeling low, I am a serial rom-com reader. I can pick one after the other. Just because they are light reads does not mean that I like only light reads. I also read a lot of non-fiction. I read a lot of biographies. I have always enjoyed them.
Wow.
I feel that gives us an insight into how people have overcome whatever came their way. And I mean, obviously, if you're reading a biography, it's going to be about someone who's carved out an exemplary life, right? So how they've done it, there's a lot of messages there for us to learn from. I also read a lot of books which come into the intersection of medicine and literature, and there are a lot of those around. So I generally read everything. I don't have a specific things. I just am very scared of horror, so I don't read horror. Other than that, I read everything, and I think that everything again is a function of how you're feeling at that point, like I said.
So true.
So depending on that one. So same way for now, my next book, which hopefully will be out soon, is not hardcore romance. It's a book about finding oneself, and it's a book about overcoming grief.
Wow.
Because I saw a lot of people struggling with grief and sorrow during the pandemic. And I saw a lot of people not being able to process these emotions. So I'm writing, it's fiction, but that's what the characters there are doing. So I think as writers, as people actually, we react to everything which is happening around us. and that decides what we will create, whether it's in terms of a dish or in terms of a book or in terms of a piece of art. We are responding to the stimuli.
So is it correct to say that writing is your second act?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree, it has given me a new lease of life. I have not given myself a new lease of life. Writing has given me, because it has changed the way I look at so many things, including myself. And I think that's the most important thing. It has taught me to be able to understand myself, understand what works for me and what does not serve me. And this is how I see it. I've been a mother, a wife, a daughter, all of us have so many identities, a doctor, a professional, a senior government officer. So these are all identities which I've had. But these are all identities where there are other people, involved, intermingling. Writing is mine. I'm being very selfish about it, but that's what the second act is also about to some extent, right? So writing is all me. Of course, I take a lot of inputs and etc., etc. But this is the part of my life which I control.
I think what Shalini said here is what I love. That it's all about me, and second act is all about me.
Absolutely.
And so beautiful. And I think every woman needs to hear this, that there has to be a time when it has to be about you, what you like, what you want to do, what you want to reinvent yourself as.
Absolutely. And I would like to add one more thing here. I don't think there's a time limit for that. It's not as if you haven't done it by age 30, 40, 50 or whatever, it doesn't matter. Whenever you do it. In fact, in some ways, you will carry more experiences and you may be able to, have a more enriching experience. So, it's just a process once you start it. And then, like you said, Archana, when you realize that it's all about you, that experiential feeling that comes is totally awesome, right? So, yes, writing is my second act. It's very close to my heart. And I'm very grateful to have been able to, make this way for myself.
So beautiful. I want you to tell women who are not able to do it, what is your advice to them to say, what should they do as a starting point?
So first is don't get disheartened. It's okay now, and this is also something which I speak about a lot whenever we have these conversations. Sometimes people make it look very easy. It's not very easy. At the same time, it's not very difficult. What you have to do is stay the course, because like I said, we've spent so long, so much of our lives trying to do things the way other people have wanted us to. It's natural to be unnerved. It's natural to find it difficult to stay the course. But you know what? You can. And that's why conversations like these, that's why things like the ones you're doing are very important. You have to stay the course. Do it little by little. It's okay. You cannot leave all your responsibilities, all your conditioning also behind in a moment. Little by little, start questioning your beliefs. Is something, and our beliefs can change. So is something stopping you? Do you believe that you will be happier by doing things differently? Ask yourself this question. Ask yourself this question 5 times a day, because no one's ever asked you this question, and no one else is going to ask you either. So, ask yourself that, oh, I went there. This was an obligation that was there. Could I have done things differently? Could I have carved some time out for myself? Even if 5 times, may say 1 time you get an answer, yes, it's enough. It is enough. We are not here, each one of us is not here to change the world. But each one of us can change our world a little bit, right? And that's enough. So it's definitely not easy. And yes, one more thing that I want to say is, reach out to other women. Don't you think so? You work so much with women. Don't you think that really helps? So reach out to other people, reach out to other women whenever you're feeling stuck. That has helped me a lot.
That's fantastic, because I can tell you, I was very close to reaching out to women. You know how it is when you have a lot of women around you, and especially in the corporate world, you feel, oh goodness, not her because she snubs at me, or not her, she
Yes.
puts me down. And honestly, my entrepreneurship journey, my working with women has opened this world to me. Reach out. They only can lift you up.
Yes.
And the ones who don't, you don't have to bother about them, you know. So Leslie, because there are enough women who will hold your hand to say, come on, you want to go there, I'll take you.
Absolutely, you will find your tribe. You will find it. And like Archana said, I really love that part where you say those who don't, leave them aside. I mean, don't even think about them. So I think that is very important, connecting, reaching out, especially for women, because we do have a unique set of challenges, which, you know, we feel that we are struggling with alone. But like we were talking just before the show, we realize that we are not alone, and that itself is such a huge feeling, to realize that you're not alone. You're not the first or the last person who's stuck in a particular situation.
So true. I want to ask you this question after, because it's triggered something in me. And I just came back, in fact, from a debate where it said, women empowerment, a myth or a reality. And I was the judge, by the way, for that.
Oh, this must have been an interesting debate.
So what's your definition of...
So from my personal experience, it's a reality. Sorry, I'm sorry I interrupted you, but my definition of empowerment, I think, is just to, be able to take your own decisions, to make your own choices, to have enough information to make choices. That for me is empowerment. I think it is a reality because I have been empowered by other women. I have had enough experiences of the opposite kind, but I choose not to dwell on them. And that it's also is empowerment. When you're choosing what nurtures you, you're choosing not to focus on what does not work for you, that is also empowerment. Having said that, yes, the kind of experiences you spoke about, all of us do face those at our workplaces. And I think that it's very important for us to be aware of those, not to get carried away, not to get overly disheartened. But women empowerment is a reality, and it is a reality in which women have a very strong role to play.
Absolutely. What a fantastic episode to kickstart the first series on the Sochcast of Reinventing Ourselves for Second Act for Women. So thank you. It couldn't have been any better. And what a nice, your thought processes are excellent. The way that you speak is amazing. The way that you feel and bring out a real substance is great. And thank you for doing what you're doing, because there are many of us who want to be on this side but don't know what to do. And I think a lot clarified today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for all those lovely words. And it really means a lot. And to all those watching us, I think all of us are already on this side if we stand together. And like I said, don't doubt yourself. We've spent too long of our first act in self-doubt. And reach out and listen and share your stories, and I'm sure that all of us will find our own second acts. Thank you, Archana. Thank you for the wonderful work you're doing and the kind of platforms that you're giving. I'm sure that they will inspire a lot of women watching us. Thank you so much.
Very humbled. Let's keep inspiring and let's keep reinventing.